All right, we are live. We are going to get started in just a second. I don't know why it feels like I haven't done this in so long these last couple of weeks. I know last week Nyla had Austin on, so I wasn't the host of last week's session. That's probably why it feels this way. But I'm back and I got a great guest for today's Two Lost Office Hours. I got my guy Kevin Cruz from 24/7 Artists, man. KC, appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Dane. What's going on, people? How y'all doing?
And we are going to get this started. Oh man, I think I messed up the Instagram stream. My bad. We might not have an Instagram stream today. I don't know what
All
happened, but
good.
anyway, they'll have to catch it on the replay. If you missed any of these, all of our Two Lost Office Hour sessions are available via podcast, so you can watch the audio. I believe the video is on Spotify as well, or you can go to our YouTube channel and check out all the replays from the great discussions that we've had all throughout 2024, and we will continue in 2025. But Kevin, a lot of times I start these out, I want to get a win from the past week. So, is there anything that you would have considered a win, either on the professional side, personal side? What can you celebrate that you got accomplished in the past week?
Yeah, I would say filming content and creating content. I literally just posted a video. I know content can be a stressful thing, overwhelming thing for a lot of creatives and music artists, but just really owning in and locking in on creating batch content and having content days. So I've had a one this past week, and I literally just posted a reel on Instagram. So that's a win for me.
So yeah, I think I mean, and that'll definitely kind of flow into our conversation today. It's all about branding. I know that some artists don't want to be intentional about the branding; they just want to make the music and
Hmm.
allow the music to kind of speak for itself. But a lot of times that doesn't allow them to stick out, or it doesn't even give their music a chance to be heard because people don't know it exists. You kind of just fall right into a sea of folks that don't
Hmm.
have quality branding. So, can we just talk initially about what is the importance of branding from your perspective? I know that might sound like a no-brainer to most folks, but from your
Yeah.
standpoint, why is this even a discussion, or why is it important?
Yeah. So great question. I think first I want to start with independent artists are entrepreneurs. And so I think starting with that mindset, you'll move differently. So a lot of artists just want to, focus on the cool. Can I curse, or
I
is that
don't.
cool?
Yeah.
Cool. Like a lot of artists just want to focus on the cool shit, right? They just want to
Yeah.
wake up, make their music, have the aesthetic, have the vibe, but not necessarily focus on anything else. And so, as an independent artist, you are an entrepreneur. Your career is your business. And
Hmm.
now, when you're looking at yourself as a business, it's like, okay, now I have to bring in these other elements to make my business successful. And one of the most important things is a brand. So if you think about any company in the world, any successful company in the world, they have a strong brand. So you have to do the same thing as an independent artist, as a creative in general. And that branding is how the world sees you and how they think of you when they think of your name, right? So like when you think of Nike, when you think of Sony, when you think of Adidas, like certain images come to your head. You think of certain things. You might think of music, you might think of certain people, you might think of products, you might think
Hmm.
of content that's all relating to that brand. But when you have an established brand and consistent messaging, then your fans and the world will think of certain things. So, as an example, like when you think about Tyler the Creator or Bad Bunny or Beyonce, you think of certain things, you think of certain albums, merch, shows, memories, whatever it is, but it's because that branding has been intentional. Tyler the Creator, he's known for his aesthetics and his sonics um and 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 his wittiness and how creative and colorful he is. So like that's an example there. So to I guess to bring it back, branding is important because it's how the world sees you and consistently thinks of you in that way. So that's why it's important.
Yeah. So what if say you have an artist, they haven't been intentional about branding, they've just been creating, but now they're like, wow, I really need to focus on like my branding piece of this. Like where would you say they should start? What questions should they start asking themselves? Or what's that initial phase? A lot of people probably watching this are probably in this
Hmm.
phase just this in this moment right now.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So, um, I actually created with 24/7 artists created a complete guide that goes through this. So, if you want this guide, I don't know if like we can, we'll figure out if we can share it with you guys or you can share it with your people, but we
Is
can
there
send it
is
over
there
to you
is there a
guys.
link to it? Yeah, I could put a link in the chats. I don't. Feel free to feel.
Um, it's in our community. It's a resource in our community. So if you can put the let me put in
There's a
24/7 artists.
there's a private chat here, and I can copy and paste it, and it'll show up in the comments of the people that are watching
Gotcha.
the stream. So, if there's anything you want me to share, just put it in the private chat, and I'll copy it over. Um,
I gotcha. Hold on, let me get the link right now.
so, but
Cool, cool.
while you're trying to find it, are there some
Hmm.
initial questions they should be asking themselves? Like, what's that beginning phase of what should I do? I'm trying to stand out.
Yep. So first thing is you want to start with a brand identity exercise. And so I'll go that in a bit, but I just want to touch on this. First, you want to start with your why and figure out why is it that you even want to be an artist or creative or whatever your career path is. Having that foundation is really going to set the stage of how you move forward in your career. So like, getting past the surface level stuff of like, oh, I just want to be on, but like, okay, what does being on look like and what does that mean for you? So starting with that why is important because that's gonna help you understand your brand and your brand identity. So some questions to ask. Let's get into this brand identity questionnaire real quick. I'll read it from here. Hold on, just give me a second. So first, you want to ask yourself, like, what is your mission statement that defines the purpose of your brand? Then you want to define your core values, like, what are the principles that speak home to you and your brand and your career? Figuring out your target audience. This is super important because as a business, as a brand, you want to figure out who you're speaking to and why, and like, what does that demographic look like? Um, then you want to have a logo and colors and color palette. This is more of like the visual side. So when you're creating content, you'll see a lot of your artists, favorite artists or brands. They'll have like a specific like aesthetic, maybe like specific fonts, maybe a specific way of shooting things, maybe a specific colors and things like that. That's going to be huge when you're creating content because that's going to take the stress away from not knowing like what to add to your content when you have those things in place. Another thing is your brand messaging. Like this aligns with your core values. When you understand what's the consistent messaging that you want to tell your fans and tell the world, then it's going to be easier to add that to your content and have that consistency across the board. Um, and then having brand buckets, which is huge. Brand buckets is basically like categories of what kind of content you want to create and how you want to create it. And so going back to like the stress of creating content, that's going to take a lot of stress away because once you have these categories in place, um, you're gonna it's gonna be easier to create that content and really translate that onto your socials. So I know that was kind of a lot, but creating your brand, it does take some work. It's not something that's just gonna like, oh, I can do it in 10 minutes. You really got to sit down with yourself, have a session, and go through this exercise. So I would say that. I know that was kind of a long-winded answer.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean I think it's super important. I don't know if there's people watching that were at the Game from the Gods tour, but what you call buckets, Ray Daniels was referring to as pillars, but it's these
Hmm.
things that you want people to just understand are important to you, when they come to your page. And obviously you mentioned it a couple of times. Like once you have all this stuff figured out, like the content piece comes so much easier. Like if you haven't done this upfront work in terms of the messages you're trying to tell, the story you're trying to tell, then you're going to wake up every day kind of like figure, oh, what should I post today? What should it look like? How should I word it? But when you do all this upfront work, you kind of know the messaging, you kind of know the colors you use, and the aesthetic that goes along with the message that you're trying to tell. How important is it for you to be authentic? Like, do I have to be authentically me? Can I create this version of a character? Like, how important is it to be authentic?
It's super important. It's critical. The thing about creating a brand as an independent artist is unique, right? It's not like some separate entity from yourself. It's not like a brick and mortar business or a business that's separate from your personal identity. As an independent artist, you are the brand. You are the career. You making the music. Your personality is that brand. So I don't think you should create this different persona that's like, okay, like, I'm this person on my downtime, but then when I'm in front of the cameras, I'm this person. I think that just creates a lot more, stress that's unnecessary, in my opinion. So I would say be authentic, be yourself, like show people who you are, your interests, what are you into, like, even vlog, like just post your daily life, and it doesn't have to show everything, right? You can choose what you want to show, but being authentic, I think, is going to be critical, and super valuable, as an independent artist. So I definitely recommend that, to be authentic as you can.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily disagree. I just feel like
Mhm.
I think it's important to be like consistent in the messages. I think it's easier to be authentic because it's, that's you, to hold up like, but if you have like a character, let's just say, obviously AI is huge right now. Let's say you have an AI created character and you just want to build this world and story around this particular character or person. Like it's possible, like you just have to be consistent in that messaging. I think it's easier to be authentic because now like this is your world, this is who you are, and you want to pick and choose what you share with like I know I don't share I mean I'm not an artist, but like I definitely don't share everything with the world. I think you got to draw boundaries. What would be your
Of
advice?
course.
What would be your advice to artists around like at least knowing you're in control of what you share and what you don't share, and where should you draw the boundary? How should they think about that?
Yeah, man. So coming back to the brand pillars, once you really sit down and have that session and say, what are my brand pillars and what is the content that I want to show? Now you have this specific guide or boundaries, like you mentioned, of like what I'm willing to show to my audience and to the world. And so now you can just always refer to these content pillars, to say, okay, like, is this aligned with my brand? Like, should I be showing this or should I not? And then having that guide, and now in your head, okay, like, I do want to show some of my personal life. Maybe it's like, okay, I want to show when I go on a shopping haul, or I want to show the behind the scenes of when I'm in the studio. Maybe that's okay for you, but you don't want to show, you hanging out with your friends or family, and that would be that boundary that you draw. So it comes from those content pillars of knowing what you want to show.
Yeah, and I'm sensitive to this because I interview a lot of artists, and I definitely don't expect them to post like clips from, some of my independent living conversations or two lost conversations. I'm super sensitive to that because education may not be part of their brand. So, if they don't
Hmm.
if they don't do a collab post, I'm not upset, or if they don't share it, I'm not upset because that may they
Yep.
that may not be a part of their brand. Like they're open to the conversation and they want to get the messaging out there through my platforms that are more educational. But I think when you work with other artists, you got to be respectful of their boundaries and what Kevin is talking about, because it may not be on brand for them, to even collaborate with you. And it may not, don't take that personal, don't take that personal.
Hmm.
It's just not your brand. And they may not see your brand your they may not see your brand in alignment with theirs.
100%.
Who are some independent artists that you think are crushing it from a branding perspective?
Oh,
I
that's
know
a
I just
good
I know I
question.
just kind of just hit you with that off the top. I probably should have let you prep for that one. But are there some artists
Nah.
that come to mind, maybe that you've worked with,
Yeah,
or maybe that you just follow on
yeah,
media that you think are crushing it?
yeah, man. Manny Wells is dope. Manny Wells, if you haven't checked them out, check them out. Check them out.
I just saw a picture of Manny. He obviously he got the baldy, but he had a brush. What? Well, he had a brush. He was brushing the baldy. What was going
Yeah, bro. He brushing no hair over there. He combing no hair.
I mean, obviously, I don't know if what the messaging was behind. I don't. Do you guys work with Manny over at 24/7, or at least I know you. It's a close relationship.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know him. Would
yeah.
you
We
happen
have a
to
close
know?
relationship with
Would
Manny.
you happen to know what that was about? Like this, the how that fits into what he was saying in that song or whatever.
Yeah, man. Manny creates content that gets the people talking, and that's like a scroll stopper or makes you want to comment. So,
Uh-huh.
that's one of the things he does. He tries to start a conversation, or he doesn't mind if people are like roasting him or saying wild stuff on his content, because at the end of the day, like that's creating content. He's not gonna, he has boundaries of what he puts or what he wants to put out there, but
Hmm.
he gets the conversation sparking and going. And so if you look at some of the comments, a lot of the comments are like funny, and they're like, bro, like, what are you brushing there? But it's literally like he understands that social media is a game, right? And content is the game, and creating engagement. So that's just kind of like a little funny twist that he does. And again, like everything doesn't have to, like everything doesn't have to be serious. Like everything doesn't have to be okay. Like I have to have the serious messaging and always educate people. Sometimes your content can just be fun, but like
Yeah,
you just have to make sure like you understand that that's part of your branding and your content pillars.
yeah. Any other artists come to mind that you think are crushing it?
Yeah, yeah. Kennedy Ryan. I don't know if you
Yeah,
know Kennedy Ryan. Kennedy
yeah.
Ryan is dope, bro. Her content game is dope. She's super consistent. She's super creative with her content. Yeah, yeah. She's killing the content game, and her branding is super dope. So
Yeah,
definitely check her out.
I interviewed Kennedy and her manager on the Independent Living podcast. I love how they're moving.
Hmm.
The music's crazy. The content they drop a lot of content. I like the behind the scenes of how the music is made because she really cares about her craft. Like she super duper cares about her craft. So seeing like the behind the scenes and how some of the beats were constructed and things like that. What from your perspective, what pops out to you about Kennedy and what she's doing?
Man, she's like a scroll stopper, bro. Like if you like come across her content on your feed or whatever, like it's just so engaging. And I think she's really mastered of like capturing your attention. Like that first 3 seconds is so critical. Now like we just like the reality is like you have to get people's attention within the first 3 to 5 seconds. If not, I'm scrolling. Like I kind of look, I take a step back and I look at how I operate on social media. If I'm on TikTok or Reels, and if I'm not interested within the first 3 to 5 seconds, I'm scrolling, right? And we kind of have this habit of like now of just continuous scrolling. And so having that audience be engaged in those first few seconds, everything, I think she's really mastered that. Because when I watch her content, it's like the visual is like it pops out, and then like she hits you like with a good part of her song. So she understands like, okay, like what part of her song is really gonna stand out, pairing it with this cool ass content. So I would say that.
Yeah, no, it definitely stands out. She has great energy on camera. She's always providing opportunities for her community to tap in or to get the song early or something. She provides good incentives for people to tap in and join her community. I think Kennedy Ryan is definitely on the rise. The music is quality. The aesthetic, the sound, like everything seems to be coming together. I think they just got to continue to be consistent. Anybody else in
Mhm.
the comments, if you have any artists that you guys think are crushing it from a brand, independent artists, we want independent artists that are crushing it from a branding perspective. If you're on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, let us know in the comments who you guys think is crushing it from a branding perspective. Anybody else stand out to you, Kev?
Um, yeah. I would say probably La Russell. La Russell is dope. If you haven't checked La Russell, y'all probably know him, but his content game is crazy. He's super consistent. And like, one of his brand pillars is like being an advocate for independent artists and educating. And so it's like when you look at independent artists or artists in general who are operating at a high level, just kind of like pay attention to what they consistently talk about. And that'll help you understand like, okay, what are their brand pillars? But he's another one. I really enjoy like hearing him talk about advocating for independent artists and educating independent artists and just giving out gems and giving out free games. So that's one of the things that stood out to me with his branding and his messages. So I think he's killing it
Yeah,
on that end for sure.
yeah. I mean, yeah, LaRussell's definitely crushing it. If you think about, the content that he puts out, education, like you said, is a key component to what he does. Bringing the fun back to hip hop is definitely a component of or a pillar to what he's talking about. The independence obviously speaks to a lot of that. A family operation. He brings his family into stuff, and his mom and dad
Mm-hmm.
are heavy parts of the operation. So these are the pillars that we learn, not because I watched a video of him talking about it, but because we've seen so much content, and he builds content around these pillars. So, as you see more and more of him, you really get to know kind of what he's about, right? And that's what you're trying to accomplish from a branding perspective. Let's see. We didn't really get too many suggestions in the comments, but audio object X or audio objects. He volunteered himself. Well, no disrespect, but if you're nominating yourself because you have great branding, other people should be nominating you if you have great branding. That's the sign of great branding. You don't, raise your hand, be like, I have great branding. That's not really how it works. If you have great branding, other people talk about you and mention you as an example. So you probably got to put in a little bit more work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what about like non-artists in the music industry? Like what should we be thinking about? Or matter of fact, how do you think about your personal brand, and what do you want people to know when they come to your Instagram page?
Yeah, man, it's the same principles and the same brand identity exercise. So I've done this myself. The brand identity exercise, like figuring out what are my core values, figuring out what are my brand pillars, figuring out, like on my content buckets, figuring out, what fonts and what colors and kind of what messaging I want to have. For example, me, like my brand pillars are education, um, and lifestyle, and then like within those I've like got specifically into like what subcategories I'm going to be talking about within those brand pillars or brand buckets. So it's a similar thing, like, but of course, we're not artists, music artists, so our brand pillars and our content is going to be different. So for example, one of my brand pillars is education, but I'm talking about branding and content creation. So I literally just put out a reel giving 5 tips for a better video quality.
Mm.
And that's just an example of how I'm going about it. So whether you're a music exec or whatever your career is, like what do you want to tell to your target audience? What do you want to show? What are your brand pillars? Is it like you showing your life, or do you want to educate? Like are you just creating like visuals? Like what is it that your messaging and your content is, and like going through that branding exercise. So it's a very similar thing. It's just like the answers that you're gonna have is gonna be slightly different from being an independent artist, or being, you know, a graphic designer, or being a music exec. So a similar approach for sure.
Do you think it's important for, let's just say, managers, for example, to have like a public brand?
Yeah, I'll say this. Let me chew on that. I would say yeah, because it's like, why not? I feel like now social media is so prevalent. Social media to me now is like your resume.
Hmm.
People, you know, are gonna go check you out on social media probably before anything else. And, you know, let me see what this person is talking about, or, you know, are they active on social media? So if you're a manager, and you haven't posted in 6 months, and you're not showing like, you know, the artists that you're working with, or the moves you're making, or just you being active in the industry, I think like that might not resonate well, from like a branding or like a social media perspective. And, you know, social media, you know, you have to have branding, right? To really like get noticed, or have like that engagement on there. So I think it's super important. I would recommend it. I know, like, you know, to each his own. Some people want to be more private, and
Yeah.
that's cool. But if you want to like get more engagement, if you want to have more networking, if you just want to be in the mix, and be more prevalent, and get noticed more, like definitely like work on your branding. And you got to be consistent on social media. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, obviously, I know a ton of folks behind the scenes that do great work. I mean, if you're already at a certain point
Yeah,
and you have, clients, you got a steady business coming in, maybe that you don't need it as much, but social media could definitely be helpful in getting more clients, getting more work. Like you said, it's kind of like your resume these days. I feel like I need to take a step back next year and kind of look at my page and
let's
figure out,
go.
because I got a lot of different things going on. I need to focus on, be more intentional about the things I post. Obviously
Hmm.
education is a big thing for me. I don't manage music artists, but I still manage creators. So I like to share some of the
Oh,
things,
dope.
some of the projects that we're involved in. So yeah, I think I have some work to do around that myself. Um,
Let's go. Yeah, it can be a tricky and tough thing, man. Consistency on social media can be a tricky thing. So,
yeah. What are
yep.
what are what are some of the mistakes you see, artists making from a branding standpoint?
Is not having a strategy. And so this is when like you kind of put on that hat of like being a business owner and an entrepreneur. It's like, okay, like I really got to, you know, as an like, let's say I'm an independent artist, I got to really sit down and like have a strategy. And this is where like the business side of the music industry and your career comes into place. And, you know, a lot of independent artists don't understand this side. This is where like companies like 24/7 artists like come in and help you teach the business side of things, so you can understand that framework and that mindset, and give you the resources and tools to get into that. So like, for example, strategy is like, okay, like, well, what does that mean? The strategy can be something as simple as like, okay, well, I want to focus, you know, for the next 3 months, I want to focus on elevating my Instagram game. What does that look like? I'm going to be posting 4 to 5 times a week on Instagram. These are my brand pillars. So I'm gonna post, you know, two posts for this brand pillar, two posts of this brand pillar, two posts of brand of this brand pillar. Okay, cool. Let me like put that on my social media calendar, or my calendar, so I can know like what dates I'm gonna be releasing this. And then now let me actually schedule in content days where I film batch content. So let's say bi-weekly, bi-weekly on Saturdays, I'm gonna schedule that day to film content. And then I film content on those days. I take it seriously, like a meeting that I cannot miss. I have those batch content days, and then I batch edit, and then now I schedule everything out, and now I'm ready to go. So that takes work, but like that's an example of a simple strategy right there. So the mistake is like not, you know, being intentional and not strategizing, versus just like, okay, like, you know, just waking up and like, what am I going to post today, or like, what am I going to create today? That creates a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, And that's what leads to inconsistency, because let's be real, life happens. So, sometimes we just don't feel like creating content, or we get really busy. But if you have strategy and you put things into place and you take it seriously, and you work on it so it doesn't have to be as stressful, then now you have a real strategy that you can stay consistent with. So I would say that that's a mistake right there.
Yeah. And I know we alluded to it a couple of times. I mean, it might sound like a lot of work up front, but trust me, it makes things so much easier on the back end, in terms of how you position your content, in terms of who you align yourself with, potentially collaborate with, brands you should reach out to. Like, it really streamlines the process once you have a clear understanding of the lane that you're in, right? Because now you're
Yeah.
making decisions and you're like, okay, that's outside of my lane. I got to stay focused. That's off brand. I got to stay focused. Um,
100%. And I just want to say this real quick. Like, if you want to be a successful independent artist, like, you have to work hard. Like, it's gonna come with work, right? Like, you can't be scared of hard work. And the content game is a part of your career. So yeah, just wanted to say that.
so a couple of questions. Let's see. Impulse asks, what's your IG? It's one Kevin Cruz, right? At
Yep.
at
So literally the number one, and then KEVINCRUZ.
yep. So at the number one Kevin Cruz. Another question. How many pieces of content do you typically batch record and edit at one time for you?
Yeah, so batch recording, I usually do about 10 in one day. I literally like I get very intentional and like precise with it. So I've literally like um trained a chat GPT um a model to like help me like figure out the script and the length of time and like what social media outlet I'm gonna put it on, and like it helps me with that. But like as far as filming, 10 pieces of content, so let's say 10 reels, and that can take me anywhere from like 4 to 5 hours. And so what I do is I'll usually like pick like two locations. I'll do like half of them at one location and do half of them at another location to kind of like spice it up and give change scenery. But yeah, I'll say that. Yeah, around 10 pieces of content, and that usually takes like half a day, like 4 to 5 hours.
Cool. Do you have any advice or suggestions? Because maybe your brand or and pillars were something different. You want to pivot, right? You want to
Mhm.
pivot the message and the storytelling. Like, do you try to educate your community on why it's pivoting and continue down that path? Do you start a new page and just start from scratch? Like, what if a couple of your pillars change along the way? How would you manage that?
Good question. So when you say pivot, you mean like rebranding, or just changing a few things about your brand?
Yeah, so you feel like you got to rebrand. Maybe you switch genres of music. Um, like, are we starting from scratch? Are we educating the current community and see who's riding with us, and you're gonna keep rocking with the same socials? What kind of things would you look at to potentially make this decision?
Yeah, so if I already have a fan base and I have engagement, and like they're expecting a certain version of me, or my artistry or my music, I would definitely like just walk them through it. And this comes back to being authentic. I think like TikTok and just like what other independent artists are doing now, just kind of being showing components of vulnerability or authenticity, and just like taking them on that journey with you. Like, it doesn't have to be this big thing or big reveal or whatever. It's just be like, yo, like, hey guys, like, I've been thinking about, changing my brand. This has been weighing on my heart, or I've been thinking about XYZ. Like, I'm gonna be doing XYZ from now on, and this is why. And just being like candid and authentic with your audience, and with your fans, and just walking them through that journey. I think when you bring people along your journey and you document it, I think it goes so much better, because then your fans can see that evolution of your brand, and that evolution of you as an artist.
Yeah. Not so I just think that you should really think about the decisions that you make. Because I've seen some artists decide to be a little bit more political, for example, right? And if that's authentically where you want to go, that's where your heart is, that's where your mind is, and that's where you want to go, that's great. Just know that with I just hope people are thinking all the way through that and are weighing the pros and cons of something that, some of your existing fans might not like. And you're gonna gain and lose fans your entire career. So
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't like just go with whatever your fans say. At the end of the day, you have to be comfortable with your branding and your messaging. So if you want to make a decision, you got to go with that decision. I would just encourage people to be mindful of and just do a 360-degree analysis of what you think the pros and cons can be when you make these decisions shouldn't be made lightly, essentially is what I'm saying.
Yep.
um
Yeah, I agree. Definitely think about what you want to be putting out there because you're putting it out there for the world to see. And whether we like it or not, people are going to judge us based off of what we put out there.
Yeah. Again, if you have any questions for KC, you can put them in the comments if you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Twitch or Twitter. We'll hang around for another few minutes and answer any outstanding questions. What was this? Oh, it's the
Sure.
link that you told me to put. So this is
Yep.
a link
So
to
the
let me.
brand identity exercise.
So
So
this is
yeah, feel free to share that with your folks.
Yep, just put it in the comments. This is the link to the brand identity exercise that he mentioned probably about 20 or so minutes ago. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you follow Kevin Cruz on Instagram. Make sure you follow 24/7 artists, always giving great resources for up and coming artists. What's the plan for 2025? What do you guys got on the schedule that
Oh,
you're
we
about to share?
we got a lot coming, man. We're gonna launch our new tech platform, Creator Space. So right now we have a platform called Creator Space, and if you sign up, you can sign up free to be a 24/7 artist member, and it'll take you to this dashboard, and that dashboard is Creator Space. It's a tool, an all-in-one tool to get your music career launched as an independent artist, and give you the tools and resources more so on the business side, understanding the business side of the music industry. And so we're completely revamping that tech platform, our Creator Space 2.0 product that's going to be launching quarter 1 of 2025. So we're really excited, super excited. That's going to be a game changer for our community and a lot of independent artists. We're going to have courses, so educating you on the business of music. We're going to have tools on there like split sheets, and like a catalog manager, and then working with companies like Two Lost to like help you distribute your music through Two Lost, and working together on that. So having a lot coming with that. So that's going to be coming soon. We'll be at South by Southwest in March. So we're going to have some cool activations, a lot of cool stuff going on there. So if you're going to South by Southwest, definitely look out for 24/7 artists. We'll be at Music Biz Week in May. That's going to be in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to have some cool stuff going on there. And just continuing to grow the community, continuing to serve independent artists around the world and help independent artists build successful careers. And that's what we're all about, giving you the tools and resources so that you as an artist can wake up and say like, yo, like I'm a successful artist. I'm able to comfortably pay my bills and live the life that I want. Like that's the vision that we have for independent artists around the globe.
Yeah, so people watching, if you're not familiar with 24/7 artists, like I said, there's a lot of great resources, a great community. If you don't feel like you have other people that understand kind of the challenges and obstacles of being independent artists, that would be a great community for you to join, just so you could be around a lot of people that really understand the journey that you are walking. And it's dope that you're going to be at South by. I'll connect with you two and see if there's some stuff we can do together there. I'll be at South by for sure. Music
Hey,
Biz,
oh,
same thing. 2025, man, hopefully it's a great year for everybody watching this, but you got to put the plan in place now, right? And I just made a video on the Music Entrepreneur Club page. It was about, because a lot of times I see artists, they think things are going to change after they do like one thing. Like they're working towards this one thing, like whether it's an album or like a video, and they think that once they drop that one thing, like their life is going to change. Or even if they get signed, like they get signed and then their life is going to change. And it doesn't materialize, it doesn't happen that way. And then they go back to the drawing board. Just know that you never know when that one thing, if that ever is going to happen. It's better that you create a very long-term plan and just build on those small wins. So don't expect the needle to move hella crazy just because you did one thing. That rarely happens, right? You got to have a series of small wins, and you just continue to build that momentum over time. I know Impulse continues to come. That's my guy. We've probably been connected on social media for years now.
Shout out to Impulse.
He's probably heard me say build on small wins a million times, but that's ultimately how I see people win in this industry. It's never one thing, right? It's a series
Yeah,
of,
100%.
of wins for sure. Um,
Consistency, bro. Consistency. Like with that word is thrown a lot, but like that idea of consistency to actually manifesting it and being
mhm.
consistent is a whole different thing. Like, and you know if you're being consistent, like look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, am I being consistent with what I said I was going to do and with my branding and content creation? And be real with yourself. And if you're not, that's okay. Just get back on the game plan and then execute.
Yeah. Your plan should be at least for the next year. And don't change. You can
Mhm.
modify the plan, once you have like a content strategy or whatever, you can add to it, you can enhance it, the quality can get better, the graphic design
Yeah,
can get better, like everything should just kind of get better over time. But definitely don't do less.
yeah.
Do not do
A
less.
hundred, 100%. And like you already like have the equipment for creating content. Like your phone, the phone that you have in your hand, like that's really all you need to start with. And as you grow and as you're able to get on, get more equipment, improve your audio, improve the quality, improve the lighting, like that comes with time. But there's no excuse to like not start and not have a consistent strategy
Yeah.
now. And like
Yeah.
Dame said, like having that 1 year plan is a great plan to start.
Yeah, Phil said being consistent is tough. It is.
It is.
Let's give them some advice on how to make being consistent a little easier. Like I mean,
Yeah,
you mentioned a few things like batch content so that it's not stressful every day or every week to do new stuff. What are some other ideas that we can brainstorm to make
yeah.
consistency a little easier? You got anything for Phil?
Yeah, man. Just think about like how can you make your content game simple, make your life simpler, right? Like get in the mindset of how can I make things easier or simpler and that won't take a lot of effort. And it starts small, right? So an example of that is like, okay, let's say I haven't been consistent in content. I'm gonna just start with Instagram. Let me start with just improving one social media platform versus like all of them, right? Let me start with IG or TikTok. I'm just gonna focus on IG and TikTok and be consistent on there for 2025. Cool. All right. What does that look like for the next 3 months? All right, for the next 3 months, I want to post twice a week consistently. Right. That's not a lot. That's not a big ask. Posting twice is not a lot. So you do the math. That's what 2, 4, 6, 8 posts per month. All right, that means I have to create 8 pieces of content to have content for the next month, right? So then it's okay. Like I know I need to film 8 pieces. All right, let me actually schedule that out, which is going back to the content batch days. All right, let's say that can actually be 1 or 2 days in a month. I schedule that out. I plan what I'm going to be talking about or what I'm going to create. Coming back to the content pillars, I do that. I edit it, and now I have my content for the next month. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Just start small because then you're gonna build that momentum. A lot of times we get overwhelmed because it's like, oh shit, I gotta create content for TikTok, for IG, for Twitter, for this and that. for YouTube, and now I have to be posting 100 pieces of content per month. It's like you don't have to start that in the beginning. You don't have to do it like that in the beginning. Start small, build your wins, build your flow of consistency, and as you get used to it, then you can say, okay, well, now I've been doing 2 pieces of content on Instagram. Now let me increase it to 3 because now I'm comfortable with that. Now let me increase it to 4. Okay, like I feel like I got IG on lock now. Let me move over to TikTok and start posting some content on there. So, start small, make it simple, make it as stress-free as possible, so you can stay consistent. And then as you find your flow and get comfortable with that, then you can start ramping it up. So
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely does. I think within that, I think a few things are probably assumed, but use your calendar. Use your calendar to block off time. I think we all waste time doing things that we probably don't need to do, whether it's extra scrolling ourselves or just watching shows or whatever. Make sure you block off time, be organized. Surround yourself with other people that have a similar mindset. Hold each other accountable. Again, get involved in the 24/7 artist community. You can probably meet a lot of people there. Share what you're going through. They might have suggestions on how to overcome some of the same obstacles that you're faced with. So yeah, being consistent is tough, but it's the consistency that allows you to ultimately have some success. I would say the final thing is, again, going back to the build on small wins, if you are able to get some early wins, it's easier to be consistent, right? Because now you have some positive momentum. You're feeling good about yourself. So don't set a huge goal right out the gate. Like Casey said, get a small win, right? Maybe you just get your first sale. And once you get that first sale, you're like, okay, somebody bought it. So
Right.
there's got to be some more people out there that's
Yeah.
going to buy it too. So,
Yeah, and you learn from that. And
mhm,
like I guess adding to that, Dame, as coming back to strategy, as you're being consistent or start putting out content, then study like what's working, right? Because a huge part about the social media content game is experimentation. Like, you know, some things like are gonna work and some things are not. So then you go back and analyze your content and analyze your analytics, and you say, okay, well, this post got, a lot more likes and a lot more comments, and this post didn't really receive a lot of engagement. Why is that? Like, what did I talk about in this one versus this one? How did I
mhm.
shoot this one versus this one? Like, what were the differences? And then really like analyzing that content, and then then refining it, and then putting out more of what's working. And so just being real practical about it. It's like, seeing, why people like this and why people didn't like this. And then asking your friends or your peers or your networks, and like, hey, like, what do you think about this content, or what do you think about this content, and getting that feedback, because a lot of times we kind of just are so self-critical and always analyzing just on our own. Like Dame said, like, it's so helpful to tap into your community, your network, and say like, yo, like, hey, bro, like what are your comments or suggestions on how to make my content better, or what do you think about this? So I think that feedback is super important.
Yeah, no, for sure. Impulse says lock in with Dane for Share Your Wins Wednesdays. Yeah, so we do Share Your Wins. That's one of the reasons we do Share Your Wins Wednesdays on the Two Lost Instagram, and hopefully coming to Reddit as well. We're going to be starting a Reddit and building our Reddit community, so be on the
Oh,
lookout
fire.
for that. But it's to celebrate each other's success. It's also to kind of educate people on what everybody's doing, just in case somebody posts something that you want to do. Maybe you can reach out to them and be like, hey, I see you posted on Share Your Wins Wednesday that you got a sync opportunity. How'd you go about that? I've been trying to land a sync, and maybe that person will respond and you can share that information. But just trying to throw out as much positive energy out there as possible to get us through the week. I think it's also important to share our losses. There might need to be another day
Yes,
where we share our
bro.
L's.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
What day should that be? We might have to do
But
share your losses Saturdays or
share your
something.
losses, man. Yeah, man. I love that, bro, because the reality is there's gonna be a lot of losses when when building anything,
Yeah,
just in life in general, you're gonna have a lot of losses, but that's
yeah,
the beautiful part of life is like being able to share that and learn from others and learn from your own mistakes. I
mhm,
love the approach of like what did I fail at today, because that means I'm actually trying something versus not
yeah,
trying.
yeah. It doesn't flow as smooth. We might need to come up with another name for it. Share your losses.
Right.
There's not a day of the week that starts with like an L.
Right.
It's like a smooth transition. So we'll need to figure that out. But it's definitely important for us
Yep.
to share because I definitely, you know, I have losses every week. People that don't get back to you, ideas that don't really pan out like you wanted to. I mean, that's part of the process. Impulse says, please do that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, hey, I've been thinking about that for a few weeks now. It might be something. I try to keep but a lot of positive. I was about to say I try to keep the energy positive, and I do, but a lot of positives can come out of that. So maybe that's something that.
100%. Yeah. Learning from those failures, bro. Like it honestly, that when I study like other entrepreneurs or other successful like creators or independent artists, like I'm looking like I like hearing about, what mistakes or failures they had, because then that teaches me, like that gives me game. So then I don't necessarily have to go through that hiccup or that mistake. I can be like one step closer to my goal or
Yeah,
how I want to operate. So I love that. That I honestly look forward to learning from those mistakes and picking up on that wisdom.
for sure. Well, Kev, I appreciate you joining me today for Two Lost Office Hours. The new shirts are dope. Hopefully, that's what you do is sending me. That he asked me for my address the
Yeah,
other day, so hopefully, I'm getting one of
100%.
those
Yeah, we, we
pretty
we got you
soon.
with the merch, bro.
Any last words of encouragement, or maybe just remind people again where they can find you?
Yeah, man. So tap into 24/7 artists. On Instagram is at 24, the number 24, and then 7 spelled out artist. Tap into there, join the community. It's free to join. There's so many resources and guides and other independent artists to connect with and learn the business of music. And then my personal page is at one Kevin Cruz, the number one, and then KEVIN CRUZ. And the last message I want to say is really make 2025 your year for branding and content creation. Like I said, our content on social media is like our new resume now. And if you want to really level up in your career as an independent artist or as a creative, I think that's a huge thing to focus on. So again, don't let it overwhelm you. It doesn't have to be overwhelming or stressful. Start simple, start practical, and that way you get that consistency going.
Dope. This has been a great session. It's our last session of 2024, so we ended it with a
Hey,
bang.
let's go.
We'll be on holiday for the next couple of weeks, and we will start again. I think we have January 6th is the first Monday that we'll be back. I believe we have a young lady from FYI, which is Will I Am's company. They have an app, a productivity app, does a whole lot of things for creators. So we're gonna start. We ended with a bang. We're gonna start with a bang, and like Kevin said, we're gonna get to it in 2025. I'm excited. I'm definitely excited. Two Lost has a lot going on. Hopefully, I have a
Y'all
lot of
killing it,
questions.
bro. Y'all are
Yeah,
killing it.
yeah. Well, thank you,
I
thank you,
love
thank
it.
you. Hopefully, just getting bigger and better, man. Again, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone else, for tuning in. We'll see y'all next year.
Thank
Peace.
y'all. Peace.